Well, there we go. Adjusted the straps a little bit. I haven't really tried it on with water in it yet. Like put it on my back with water on. I put it on empty, but straps are pretty crap, to be quite honest. Like the cushioning, made in China. You sort of get that feeling. There's a little nut that was up there. It sort of needed a bit more hand tightening. It also helps. This swivels around quite alright. I haven't seen it leak out of there yet, but then I haven't completely fooled it. I've only gone up to halfway. But it also helps if you don't have the pipe going out that way with the tank sitting on top, then you actually get your full flow. But, so those water bins, are they garbage bins there? I might go get me a little stand and I'll show you what I can do. You mightn't be able to see a great deal. I don't even know if you can quite see where I'm standing. I'll give you an idea. Now I'm just kneeling down. Not quite hitting the bin. I'll change the nozzle. As you can see, you've got to take some spray out of it. Might have gone on top of the phone, I don't know. Yeah, probably did. Not bad. Now you can hit the roof. Not a problem. But anyway, that's the Ridgy-Dig bona fide bloomin' up to standards. They used to make some of the people with the services, like as in your utilities, your power companies, you know, maybe rail works, local government and all that, carry those on all their vehicles, particularly power line workers back in the day. But anyway, that's all approved for use. And they come in slightly cheaper than I expected at $200 as opposed to $220 or $260 or $300. One bloke wanted. Kitties is out and about already. Went out to the dunny last night and something followed me out there and running back and forth between here and the dunny, and Tabby Cat spooked Black Kitty and Black Kitty goes flying back into the house. Gonna pull this apart. I probably should have breakfast first, but anyway. And the old Milwaukee there. Not much of a blooming plate left there. I'm pretty certain I got this on the side of the road. I used to come up to TVs on the side of the road, but I generally wouldn't get the whole TV. They had... We're all got digital transmissions for TVs, they're scrapped analogue. But the stupid government recycling program didn't line up when they scrapped analogue. It was like 9 months late. So then all these ones end up out on the side of the road. So I got into the process of under 2.5 minutes using a bloody... It was actually a blooming... one of those 4-way blooming tyre wrench things that, you know, to change the nuts on the tyres, and they got all the different sizes. One of them, set of pliers, set of side cutters, and in 2.5 minutes I could strip the deflection coil out, and then I'd just leave the rest of the TV on the side of the road. But some things I pick up, and this would have been one of them, because there's always nice sheet metal in these, and louvered sheet metal, and oh, this one doesn't look like it's gone too well. Might have been used for making billy biscuits. But anyways, there's usually bloody big transformers in this, and there's also big capacitor. I've kept one, I don't know why, but it damn capacitors, I'm not joking, they're friggin' like this. Well, probably not. They're probably more like that big, and you got your two connectors there, sort of thing. They're flipping huge. I'll show you when I get it out. But this, for a long time, actually had a mirror sitting against it, and this little bird had come in and attack the mirror, and then sit on the microwave and shit on the top of it. And there's also, once upon a time, I think it was very good price. I think it was $1.75 or something like that a metre for this, and for house cabling, $3.50 a metre. That was scrap price, and you didn't have to strip the insulation off. But that was pre-GFC, I think. But anyway. Oh, I nearly sneezed. This one will be going. There's another one I had, which was stuffed, and my father went to use it, because sometimes these things, like they're so big, these ones from the early 90s, and nobody gives us stuff, and they just chuck them out. And all this is all off the side of the road. They chuck stuff out on the side of the road here like it's going out of fashion. Ever since they had the brains, these grannies got in there and said, well, what we should do, instead of stopping everybody buying a whole sack of cheap shit, what we should do is charge them to throw money, to throw it out. So they added this extra blooming tax on top for things to go in a landfill. So what do? Just chuck it out on the side of the road instead. It's not looking like Napoli, but it was a stupid bloody move. But anyway, that one's an old one, and sure as eggs, there will be a decent transformer in that. Now this is out of another one that I picked up, which I think was an amp that was also with this. That's an aluminium heatsink, like no other. That could come in very, very handy for anything involving peltiers, thermoelectric generators, or just making a little peltier fridge. I mean, look at the frickin' size of it. And if I'm not incorrect, that is probably a temperature sensor on there. And all the rest are like transistors. But anyway, that's a flaming good little heating piece, so I'll keep that. This here is significantly heavy. That there, if I could guesstimate, would probably be about 3.5 pounds. That's probably good and in working order, and if you know what ones you're picking, you can pick the right ones. Well, you usually use a multimeter to work out who's who in the zoo in regards to that. But either way, there is bloody plenty of steel in that. And also, plenty of copper wiring. That's primarily why I get all this stuff. There's nothing to do with steel, it's all to do with ripping out dirty, great big transformers made out of copper, because I intentionally stash a bloody lot of copper. And hopefully one day the price of copper will be worthwhile and I can move all this copper and make a quick buck. It's like me bloomin' desperate fallback cash, all this copper. Hey, had the back off. Had a few smarty pants screws there, so I actually drilled out the middle of them, and then as a result they were so weak that I could give them a little tap and or a decent thump, and the whole bloomin' head just blew off. So that you had to cover. Against the back, how often you got your screws on your outer side, you end up with the little fan. One of those type motors, if that means anything to you. I often keep these anyway. Of course there's more copper there, but that's also a working fan, usually, almost all the time. So this mightn't be, this is a cheap ass microwave, so that capacitor isn't as big as I described. I have seen ones twice the size of that in decent branded microwaves that are of a larger size. That, I think, is your power diode. It's not marked quite the way I expected, but I had in mine I had a power huge big power diode snap off right close to the thing, because my microwave was used in the caravan and it worked for a while and then it died, and then they said, well, if you can fix it, and I said, I can't fix it directly, and they said, well, because I just couldn't buy one that was a high enough wattage myself off the shelf. They said, oh, well, you might as well have it anyway. And so I ended up taking it to a place and was charged a minimum $55 to replace the one diode. And I now have a working microwave which I more or less never use anymore. I think that's your gear that generates your microwave energy. Dirty ass, great big transformer. Typical of the cheap ass Chinese ones. I don't believe this. I've seen them use wax before, but that's masking tape and wax. I've seen them use wax in a radio actually to hold the parts in. There's your little beeper for when she's done cooking. Another little transformer there. These are your door switches. When you open it, it shuts it off. One there, and I think another one's down there. Little grey doovers there. Not too sure, but that looks like a relay. 12 volt DC to 250 volt AC. Yeah, a few electronics and shit. Cable for your screen and all the buttons and bullshit. I think it's just a screen cable, that one. To, like, you know, you like show your time of how long you got left cooking or whatever. So, a couple of little, well, that's a lamp, I think. Yeah, 20 watt 240 volt lamp. Yeah. Some of the goers with the motors that drive the... Oh yeah, looks like the motor's right underneath that cover there, because I can see wires there. I never really taken any notice. I thought it might be like a belt drive or something. But, yeah. Here's a classic I just realised on this. There was a time where these are actually worth something, and basically when they got stolen, you know, the cops couldn't really identify it. So instead of trying to keep your manuals and your serial number, blah, 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 they told people to etch their driver's license number onto the side. Which this dude has obviously done. Good way of finding who threw it out, because I think your driver's license number you pretty much have for life. I've had the same one ever since, way back. So you could look that up on a current police database, and then called LEAP, that's our police database, and yeah, take it round and drop it off at his bloody house again and say, well, you're throwing this out on the side of the road. Holy smoke. Oh, this is another, whoa, there's at least 3 pounds in that, I reckon. Big dirty couple of wires, and little thin ones up the top hidden under there. Paper, masking tape, wax and generic sticky tape mix there. There's not a great ton of it. Copper. The weight is actually in what they call the eddy plates. And yeah, at the end of the day, it's another chunk of copper that I will be keeping. They actually also take electric motors. That's one of their specific price rates, is just electric motors. And I assume it's sort of based on a expected ratio of how much copper to how much steel and what the weights of those would be. But because my uncle had a large amount of 415 volt 3-phase motors, for lathes, some doing nothing at all. Troy even saw a few of them here. He said it's a junkyard dream, is what he described this place as. And there's a massive big one out there that still spun over fine. and he was surprised it was so old. It was probably built in the 50s and still spun over fine. But due to that, my father has a exceeding amount of electric motors. Basically, when somebody doesn't make a will, their next of kin gets the whole lot by default. And of course he decided to give me this property. But anyways, yeah, that's one of the things they price out, so you don't exactly have to go and pull all the copper out of a motor. You can actually take in just straight motors, and he's got like a big stack of these huge friggin' motors. God blimey, you'd have... You know, he's probably got... It's over a quarter of a tonne worth of motors, I'll put it like that. Anyway, I might get stuck into the... oh God, just throwing out little broken bits of glass. I might go and get rid of the glass first and then get into the last few switches and bits and pieces and maybe try and rat the motor out of the bottom of that. This is a bloody weird material. That's a little cover you always find there on the side. And, well, it usually coughs the dirty big burnout. That's what covers your microwave from coming through. When I added a microwave, it still worked even though the cover was burnt a bit on it. But this material is bizarre. I can't exactly guarantee that what I'm remembering is right, but by looking at it, I think I might be right anyway. I believe it's vermiculite. I know in toasters, particularly an old one that my parents own, they actually put the nichrome wire, which is like your heating coils, onto vermiculite. Now with theirs, they've basically got a sheet like this with notches in the side, and then it's sort of the wire goes in a notch, and then it's got a little coil running along, goes into the next notch on the other side, coil running along, and it's coils are running back and forwards. And I gather this is also vermiculite. That's your little piece there that all microwaves have. Now vermiculite can be dug out of the ground. It's something that's dug out of the ground. It is then exfoliated, which means heat the shit out of it, and it basically expands. And they refer to it as popping because it pops like popcorn. And they use that in the nursery industry. In the States, it had a terrible tendency to come out of the same mines as asbestos, and there came a point there where asbestos got wiped out, and then they also had a lot of wallboards and stuff made out of primarily vermiculite, only to find that a lot of it actually had a small percentage of asbestos in with it, because for some reason in the US, asbestos and vermiculite end up coming out of the same holes in the ground, whereas everywhere else in the world, vermiculite just comes out on its own. But anyway, that's as heat-proof as all buggery. And interesting little piece. I don't know if I'll keep it. Probably not. Too much old crap laying around, but I just thought I'd share that with you guys. Go and look up vermiculite in Wikipedia or whatever, and you'll probably find out. vermiculite. Okay, well, here's a little motor coming out the bottom. Probably keep this because it's a flippin' ripper. It's 4 revolutions a minute, which is slow, as you know, that most of these things run at. It's only 4 watts. It is 240 volt and all that, but I mean, that's low enough to run straight off an inverter without batting an eyelid. Hell, most of my compact fluorescent lights are 13 watts. But that's sort of, yeah, I might be able to find a ridiculous use for that. Going from bad to worse here. Got the drawstring out and we're going to tie it around their right back leg. Now around their flipping neck. Oh, now we've undone ourselves. Lucky because old Tabby Cat's trying to murder you here. Ain't you, Tabby Cat? Why are you always trying to murder Black Kitty, eh? Oh, you're playing, but flaming hell, you always got your teeth out and everything. I hope one day they can do a similar thing when they catch a rat, instead of blaming killing each other all the time. I did notice sitting on my bed last night, I ended up kicking them out due to certain reasons, but what ended up happening was the mice started walking on the ceiling, and two little heads go whoop, straight up to the flaming ceiling. So it's a good sign that they realise there's something in there and they're curious about it. But unfortunately, you know, I'm not going to go opening up so they can get in the ceiling space and it'll take a whole blooming circus, you know, planks and stuff so they can even walk up in there just to come back covered in bloody itchy insulation. That's not going to happen. Oh crap, I just pulled this out of the flipping ground. It's a blooming sock. And look how far we are away from the house. That white thing there is the laundry, and then behind that's the house. Blooming crap gets everywhere here. There's a whole bunch of chicken wire and random bits of stuff further out and past there too. And there's a whole stack of broken bottles. Now when I was doing the scrap metal, I got all the wire and all the crap, and I was just busy trying to get it out as quick as I could. And I went down there the other day and got all the broken glass. There's quite a bit of it, but I still don't think I've got the whole lot. But as we're pulling out some of the box thorns around here, the tractor had sort of, you know, dig a few holes in the ground with the back tyres, blah, blah, blah. And it was throwing all this flipping glass up. And I'm talking brown glass, blue glass, everything. And there's all this smashed glass all out here. I believe there was the first relative who lived here when they actually moved the house here was, I think it was a alcoholic, and that could account for all the smashed glass. I also know my grandfather's cousin was, well, didn't really care much about things, and some of those might have been his bottles as well, but they seem to be reasonably old, probably older than when my grandfather's cousin was here. Alrighty, it appeared that red one I went through the rock with was indeed pretty flaming blunt, so I just changed over to a brand new blade. Yeah, just been cutting up some of these droppers with the reciprocating saw. Yeah, these aren't terribly powerful, but I'll tell you what, by the time you mix two-stroke oil in a jerry can and then pour that into another little opening on a chainsaw, then add bar oil, then check your chain sharp, and then, you know, put your bar on, tension your chain, and then pull start bloody 25 times to get the bastard running. These are a remarkably good dealio. All you need is a full battery and a sharp blade, which you can change. As simple as flicking the outside of that, and when I find the hole, clicking it back in again. They lack power for taking on flipping trees and crap, but just doing stupid little droppers like this just to give yourself a bit of stuff for the wood stove or whatever, you know, it's fine. And of course I always make the habit of, most times, trying to go through the hole where the wire's gone through, because it will cut the darn sight quicker when it's only got 2/3 of the wood that it actually needs to cut. I've sort of been neglecting to do all those leaves of all the stuff I had before that I dried out from the plants here. More interesting and important stuff to do, and then I'd get sidetracked at night and never get to it, because there's some things that I do at night because I can, and I do what I can only do at the day during the day. Anyway, that's the mushroom herb really come down to bugger all, basically. Lemon verbena, lemon-scented verbena, there was quite a damn lot, actually. I was quite surprised. And stevia, there was a fair bit, not tons, but I mean, considering one leaf is equal to about 4 teaspoons of sugar, we're going to be right for a little while there. I may try and buy some more of these things when they're available again. I've had some strange thoughts involving cardboard frame houses and possible glass houses, so we'll see if that leads anywhere, or I don't just whack more in here, which may be a pretty good idea, and it's just outside my door, and I've got everything here under glass anyway, and probably do with a bit of a clean of the windows. All the, shower screen, shop door, window, polycarbonate, fiberglass, or whatever. Yeah, I'll just chuck those away. I'm doing a little something else for a little couple. That does actually come out the other way. I might actually leave that there. So this is pretty easily done. I went in with a hole saw, and initially I used a 10mm bit, and the reciprocating saw wasn't going to fit the blade in through that. I put one of the smaller blades on, and then I used a hole saw to get through, and done all this reciprocating saw. That came out pretty easily, and I sort of went along there and trimmed it again a couple of times. But I may leave that there to try and help keep the thing, reasonably well placed. Now, there's people who use perspex and piano hinges, and then magnets or little weights or whatever. It's like a lot of things. You can stuff around and make everything look perfect and professional, or you can just slam into it, do a hillbilly hack, and she's done in 5 minutes, and then you don't have to worry about it, And, well, I'm not going to get a house that's got bloomin' borer right in the thing there, and umpteen other places, and walls that ain't perfectly straight, and do a Taj Mahal job on a house that's, got a flippin' crack in the door and bugger knows what else, and make it look like a bloomin' palace. So what I've done is I've got a second piece here I'm going to put on the bedroom door. This is actually mud flaps my father made for his vehicle, and I hooked the caravan on, and the 3-ton weight of the caravan sunk it down a bit, and the mud flaps are too low, so he cut a bit off the bottom of his mud flaps, and this is one of those. Well, actually, these 2 bits were one side, and then he's got another bit still left over. But anyway, the idea behind this is, that's just a few screws that I've thumped in. You probably won't see it when I close the door. No, you won't. There's a few wafer head, button head screws here that are in there, which I've nipped the ends off with the angle grinder, as you can tell. And this piece here, I basically held this up against the door, traced around it, and then I sort of come down, it sort of ends up about here or something, and so then I cut it down a bit further so it had a bit to hang on. But basically, instead of mucking around with magnets and weights and all that, this has got enough flex that you don't need to put a hinge, and it just tends to come back to the bottom anyway because of the weight of the actual rubber itself, and probably the fact that the rubber would rather remain sort of, straight anyway, as opposed to twang like that, because of course rubber, is flexible, but would still rather remain flat in the way that it was originally moulded. So yeah, that's one door, and I'll probably do the bedroom door. Bedroom door, I'm going to have to, it's got like a little bolt latch lock, but I'm going to have to muck around and make it a bit better because the door moves and the bolt light doesn't actually, line up sometimes, so I've got to sort of drill a bit more and dig out a bit more, probably with a chisel or a bloomin' good knife, and then try and put one of these on, because this is held in with a proper bloody door latch shenanigan, whereas one of the bedrooms only held in by magnetic latches that are made for bloody cupboard doors and kitchens. But it's also got a bolt there as well. So yeah. But anyway, I'll do that in a while. How's this, eh? That's not even a 1/4 inch thick. That's out of the bedroom door there. They've put a stain on it of some kind. I am just about certain that was a door from a cupboard of some kind. Yeah, like a chest of, not chest of drawers, wardrobe or something like that. She's very lightweight, and I deliberately chose a lightweight one. It's actually the beam that goes up there that holds it is straight, and yet there's another beam, it's only like about 6 inches across, which runs down about there, which is not straight, which is one of the original house beams, and it is so not straight, it's ridiculous. But anyway, all this mortise and tenon, or whatever they call it again, things here might be alright on the top, but in the bottom, well, they're a bit shaky, so I might actually whack through a few screws or something. Otherwise, the bottom bit of the door will be just about ready to fall off. It's a very flimsy door. It's got a big crack down there because I've got the handles there, and there's also one going across the bottom piece, the top of the bottom piece, the top, 6 inches below where it sort of has a heavier piece of framework. It actually cracks through this stuff right from one side of the door to the other. As I said, very flimsy, but when I first put it in, it was all good, and it sort of cracked with me sometimes kicking it open or pulling a bit hard on the handles or whatever. And it was deliberately used purely out of weight, not out of strength, because I mean it's only an internal door. But yeah, the reason I've done that is obviously to put at least weight as possible on the framing. Because I've had doors in here, I'm not joking, they would have been easy over 100 pounds. You would have been upwards of 110 pounds, if not 120. Might have even been over that. It would have been about 55 kilos, one of the doors that my uncle had as a spare door in this house. And honestly, I've got about another 4 doors in here. Actually, let's have a count. Yeah. 3 glass doors and another one that is definitely off the front of a wardrobe, which will be used if this other one completely turns to crap. Well, she's on. This useless bloody phone will not show it, even with an LED lamp shining against it, so you're just going to have to take my word for it that there's a cat door in my bedroom door, and I got all the corners and wax screws through them, and they seem to, I gave it all a wiggle, and it seems to hold together pretty well since I put the screws into the corners, like those sort of corners on that door back there. No, you will not see the cat door. And I got the little piece that I cut out of the bedroom door and managed to fit it over the hole where the air conditioner outlet went through the wall. On the other side, I actually filled it up with expansion foam, but of course, you know, you got your gap in your wall, and so you got to sort of fill it both sides. So instead of going try and pour a whole heap of it down into a dirty grey hole in the wall, I thought I'd just reuse the old bit that come out of that door to patch over the top of it. Sort of worked all right on the outside because I had expansion foam already there on the outside, and I sprayed a bit of water in before I put the expansion foam in, and that helps it bond to the existing expansion foam. And then I sprayed water over it after I sprayed it in, which helps it set a bit quicker because it relies on drawing water out of the air to set, according to the can. Well, here we are in the bathroom with a glorious bathroom door, and this bathroom door was an outside door for many years, and like many parts of this house, hasn't seen real serious maintenance and effort since about World War II. You know, my uncle put in new floors and done a little bit of framing work, and you know, of course I've done a bit of work, but essentially the hinges and a lot of stuff bolted onto this was probably done in World War II. My uncle didn't even have a proper latch. He just had actually a bolt running through the thing, and then just a big bit of flat plate that was probably, not quite a 1/4 inch thick, 2 inches wide, and about 1.5 foot long, that he just jammed side on to keep the door closed. Anyway, these hinges, you know, haven't been an outside door for umpteen years, and with the screws probably put in around World War II, well, the screws are sort of rusted a little bit, and then they sort of slipped out, and I've tightened them up when I fixed the place up and said, oh well, the door closes all right now, and sort of, you know, put a couple of handles on it and a little bolt on the inner side, you know, to lock it, and a few magnetic catches and whatnot, and didn't do much more. And the bolts worked their way, or the screws worked their way back out, and quite out. And at one point I slammed the door there and it sprung back a bit, and might as well show you the actual one that happened to. The old hinge here actually bent on that screw hole, and there was a sort of, it bent sort of out this way. And then when you close it, it always kind of keeps trying to bounce back half the time. The door itself was hitting against the architrave edging. It's supposed to stop wind blowing in and whatnot. And I've taken out, let's see, I'll hit a good bolt here. There's a real bloody ripper. A couple of them here. Yeah, I'll get this up to the light. As you can see, they sort of wear a little bit thin, and the thread goes all rusty and cakes up with rotten wood, and before you know it, well, you can't see it too well, but those of you who have seen old screws from World War II that have faced a lot of weather would know there's barely a bit of thread on them, and they're corroded to the shit house, and basically they're crap. And so are the holes for the wood that they were put in, because of course, you know, with wind blowing the wrong way, it's sort of leached in the holes. So what I'm going to try and do is use the same hinges and new screws. I started to put some new screws in, and then just thought, oh, stuff it, we're going to move the hinge altogether, when I realised that the ones on the actual house frame here were just as bad as the ones on the door. So I'm going to try and trim the end of the weatherboards a bit and move them all up. I mean, they only need to go up about 1/2 inch, but I might put them up a whole inch, and then try and reattach it all, and hopefully we get a door that closes properly, and then from there we can work on a door that closes real well. I've got this camera is so crap for seeing everything. That there is tied on with a bit of wire back to a secure point, I'll call it, and there's quite a chance that I shall be, usually that sits through like that, with a bit of wire going up there where my finger's moving, and I got an eyelet out in the car that I can sort of just go and hook through, and the eyelet will be in the door, and then I can keep little putty tats from climbing through the little solar rig that's in there. There's a tractor battery and all that. If you know anything about larger batteries, you'll know that big deep cycles and tractor batteries, and most likely batteries for big rigs, have the terminals on the same end of the battery, and these aren't terribly heavy wires or anything, you know, and the cats, yeah, they try and walk through the middle of them and jump on the battery and walk on the battery, and they stopped doing it to the battery box outside, and now they're doing it to this one. And I don't want this cheap $30 charge controller to short out if they break off one of these wires from swinging off them, which is an all possibility. They probably bloody will. And I'm sick of them knocking over all the detergent, and they've knocked over every bloody shampoo bottle besides one that I've got down there, which you also can't see. And I think it's time to end the little games in this room by closing the damn door. Oh yeah, at some ridiculous hour. And I scrounged and finally found enough little bolts. As you can see, finally this camera's picking up well. Your darker mark underneath was where it was, where it obviously no paint is on it. And the upper part is where it is in. You can see some of the little bolts in there. My gosh, I had to scrounge though. Didn't think I'd get enough in. But I got enough in. Same on the bottom, which you won't be able to see properly. And believe it or not, the bolt lines up. Look at that. It goes in. Ooh. There we go. So there we go. So tomorrow, you'll see the little white cord going through. That's from that cord that comes from the generator. And I've got a whole bunch of saddle clips, and basically them sort of things. That's the cable that goes around to the 6-volt battery charger for the hot water system. And I'm going to whack those on the door so that it'll be permanently mounted in the door. And then I've got to make a little plywood sort of a shelf thingy, basically 3/4 inch ply against the back or something, goes down, goes across, and then what I'll do is put a triangle in there and use a few smaller screws to attach that triangle to that part and that part. Or something like that. I may get a different idea. It's a lot easier to put it on the bottom, because there's a gap between the concrete floor, which, well, I suppose you can see the concrete on that side, but this side I've actually got it's like a deep sort of a red earthy colour. It's a powdered mix that you can throw in, and my uncle had a bit of that here, and that's what they colour concrete with, so I put a bit on this side. And yeah, where that slab ends and then it goes to a normal wooden floor, there's a bit of a gap, you know, in case there's any movement of the earth, as there often is here. And this door, having been an outside door, is not exactly a straight line on the bottom, and the kittens are likely to dip down the gap between the rest of the house and this concrete slab, and then come in here and play with the wires regardless. So I've got to make up some sort of a shenanigan to stop them from doing that. It may end up being out of flipping mesh or something like that instead of plywood, but we will work all that crap out tomorrow, because I really want to eat something, have a shower and go to bed. And yeah. Well, instead of sitting there telling you what it looks like and you can't see it in the dark, I've gone and got the lower definition phone. We should be able to see things a little bit better. I have nipped the end off that hook and put an eyelet on there. It's a bit of a furphy of an idea using a hook tied back with wire or something, because, well, the point is the door is fully closed against the architrave as you got the blooming hook. Like, as you're getting around the edge there, that's when it's fully closed. Then of course it drops back about 3/4 of an inch once it actually goes on, like so. And then you get yourself a little gap. Not the brightest idea. that was on the inside. The outer side one, I think I cracked the shits and punched it or something and it was cracked. This was in the same place on the inner side, and all I'd done was just take the screws out. They got screws that thread into the thread that's inside the handle. All I'd done was just undo it, put it on the other side and put them back in again. Put me little, what's his names on each side, little saddle clamps. I use all my hooks primarily for somewhere to hang clothes, to dry clothes. So all I had was this dirty ass big coaching bolt, and I thought, you know what, that's good enough. So I put that in there to hang the cable off. Temporarily I've had a power cable going from the generator, which is, I've never really shown it, never will, but there's a little hidey spot out near the laundry, and yeah, it's close to the laundry, but nowhere near the house. So anyways, temporarily I've ran lines back here just for vacuuming and whatnot, or actually picked the generator up and bought it right next to the veranda and set it next to the veranda. All bloody 35 kilograms, the damn thing. I mean, the thing's like 75 pounds in weight. It's friggin' heavy. Especially where it's hidden, is bloody hard to get it out. So I've decided to just leave this line permanently here, and instead of having this get jammed in the door architrave, I've got a slot cut in there, and saddle clips either side so it won't get jammed when I close the door, and then I've got it hanging off the door so it also has a spot so it doesn't get jammed in the closing of the door. Now, I had that's right, the back cover off that radio thingy I was playing with. Well, that's actually the top of it with all the holes in it to vent the heat out from all the amplifier and all that. I tried to mount that on the door and then realised the swing means that the bloody thing's going to catch the architrave here. And then I thought, well, hang on, think a bit harder. I want to just mount the damn thing on the floor. So that's what I've done. And I've bent the end there, I've tapered it down so the door doesn't quite clip it. But I mean, there's not even a 3/8 inch gap there. You know, there's not even 10 mil there. And then I think I'll go around the edge, cut the sides off with a cordless angle grinder. And then I'll open up here. One of the sides went against the side there to close that corner up because, well, being an outside door, she sort of rotted in a circular curve, and that's a chance where kitty cats might get through. So all up, on the edge of this, it's about big enough to get a mouse through. Just hang on a second, I'll close it again. Yeah, it's about big enough maybe to fit a mouse through. I mean, you get a little bit of gap there. Probably a bit bigger than my thumb and all that. That's about the only gap. I might fit one through there as well if he's willing to jump off the concrete onto the thing here. But seeing kitty cats, I don't think they'll be able to get the head through there. Definitely not that hole. Unlikely that hole. And kitty cats are growing, so the thing is they're getting bigger, and if they barely fit now, they ain't going to fit later. So yeah, that's all held in by a few wafer head screws. Button heads are like pretty much the same, except they've got a little bit more of a dome top, and these are actually wafer that don't look much different except they're slightly flatter. I think they're 2 mil thick, which is less than 1/8 of an inch thick, these heads. But anyway, yeah, it looks like that door is pretty much sorted. I don't need the little magnetic bits and pieces on there, but I mean, stuff it, I might as well leave them on. There's always been a bit of a gap up here, and it's like some old tar paper or some crap they put here, so I'm probably going to leave that there just to stop, well, 2/3 of the draft coming through. But anyways, I had to cut into the architrave a bit because of this bolt here. there's a whole mishmash of different sorts of bolts holding it on, and I was surprised I got enough bolts, as I said before. But yeah, it looks like that thing's sorted, and I'd have to actually do some flaming dishes today.